lot of talk now about massive loneliness. We know that behavior is real. Listen, but what if you're actually going in the exact opposite direction?
You started cutting certain people out of your life, just actively distancing yourself from all the noise. And the crazy thing, the thing that surprises you the most isn't guilt, it isn't regret, it's this strangely peaceful feeling. You might be sitting there wondering why stepping back actually feels like this massive relief, almost like a loud blaring alarm in your life has finally just been switched off. Society loves to label this behavior as cold or heartless, but I'm telling you, the truth is far more fascinating.
Okay, let's dive into this. If you've been feeling even a tiny bit guilty for pulling away lately, I really want to validate your experience right now. Your decision to distance yourself from certain people, it's not a personality flaw. It's not you being broken or mean or totally irrational. It is actually a deeply ingrained, highly effective neurological defense mechanism. You aren't just running away. Your brain is simply kicking into survival mode to protect you from being completely depleted.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going to look way below the surface of relationship burnout. We're going to uncover the hidden psychological blueprints that actually drive this withdrawal behavior. Specifically, we'll look at how growing up in tense environments forces children to become hyper-aware of adults' moods, creating a blueprint for relationships based entirely on scanning for danger and putting others first. Get ready, because what we're going to uncover explains so much about why you operate the way you do. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The compassion fatigue breaking point. This is what happens when the giver's tank runs completely empty. You didn't just wake up one morning and randomly decide to turn your back on people. For years, you were probably the 3 a.m. friend, right? You were the reliable one who sat for hours just absorbing everyone's drama, listening to them complain about work, vent endlessly about their exes, and rely heavily on your advice just to make it through their week. But then, when your own life hit a wall and you really needed a shoulder to lean on, you looked around and found literally no one. Psychologists actually call this compassion fatigue. It's a term originally used to describe the severe burnout of healthcare workers and therapists, but it perfectly captures what happens when your emotional energy tank is just drained over thousands of tiny moments of unconditionally putting others before yourself. Eventually, your system simply reaches its absolute limit and shuts down.
So the really crucial point here is that this exhaustion triggers a very real biological response. According to Dr. Stephen Porges, who developed polyvagal theory, our brain is constantly scanning our environment, asking one simple, ongoing question: is this place safe? When you're constantly getting bombarded with signals of stress, disappointment, or that awful sinking feeling of being used, your nervous system actually switches into a protective state. It literally reduces your desire for interaction and pulls back to conserve whatever physical and emotional energy you have left. So stepping away, it isn't some impulsive or petty choice. It's a biological imperative dictated right by your nervous system to protect your emotional resources.
That brings us to Section 2, the childhood survival blueprint, and where this intense sensitivity actually began. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how a child adapts to chaos. We really have to ask why your nervous system is so highly attuned to these stressors. To find the core of it, we have to look back at tense, unpredictable childhood homes. If you grew up in an environment where conflict was just constant, doors slamming, those heavy, suffocating silences, an atmosphere where adult emotions took up absolutely all the oxygen in the room and your own feelings were treated like a burden, well, you had to adapt to survive. You couldn't fight back, so you developed this incredible superpower: the ability to hyper-read the room. You learned to gauge the exact pitch of a footstep in the hallway. You immediately sensed tension and scanned adults' facial expressions to predict the very next explosion. You learned to make yourself smaller, stay perfectly quiet, and prioritize calming the adult's emotional needs just to keep yourself out of the line of fire. Basically, you grew up way too early, becoming an absolute expert in managing everyone else's mood but your own. This deeply complicated dynamic brings us to attachment theory, which was pioneered by psychologists John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth. Because of this childhood adaptation we just talked about, you didn't just learn a temporary coping mechanism, you actually created a lifelong psychological blueprint. See, a child forced to manage volatile adult emotions learns that safety is a rare luxury that has to be earned, and in adulthood, this creates a seriously conflicting loop. On one hand, you possess this intense, deep desire for genuine connection, but it's severely mixed with an absolute terror of being emotionally drained or hurt all over again. So you give, and you give, and you give just to keep the peace, exactly like you did as a kid, until your self-protection instinct finally screams at you to pull away. Now let's look at Section 3, your brain's prediction system and the unexpected gift of pattern recognition. Because of that highly attuned childhood blueprint, your brain is now this incredible social alert system, just constantly recording and analyzing data. Just think about the typical timeline of these toxic relationships. You really start to notice patterns in how people treat you. Maybe someone gives you intense attention and makes all these big promises in month 1, but by month 2, their compliments somehow always seem to come attached to requests or heavy favors. And then by month 3, after they've taken exactly what they need, they completely vanish. Users, takers, and emotionally unavailable people operate on these exact, predictable timelines, and your highly sensitive brain tracks all of it without you even consciously trying. You start to get that sinking feeling, like, I've seen this exact story play out before. And listen, that's not just intuition or you being overly cynical. Your brain actually acts as a highly efficient prediction engine. Because of your early emotional stress, your brain's danger detection areas react so much faster than average. When it sees empty apologies without any real behavioral change, or those exhausting cycles of intense attention followed by totally disappearing acts, it predicts the painful outcome before it even happens. It basically tells you, hey, we know exactly how this ends, and firmly triggers that urge to walk away to save you the impending heartache.
Which leads us to Section 4, why boundaries are not walls and navigating the judgment of society.
Now, what's really fascinating about this comparison is how it completely dismantles the guilt society tries to place on you. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries might accuse you of being extreme, of isolating yourself, or building walls when you finally decide to cut people off. But let's clarify the difference here. A wall is built entirely from fear. It blindly blocks everyone out and just traps you in the dark. That is absolutely not what you are doing. You are setting boundaries. Boundaries are built from immense self-respect. They're like a sturdy door with a lock and a peephole. They keep the toxic, draining people out, preventing them from dumping their emotional trash in your space, while still allowing you the freedom to open the door for those few rare people who truly bring warmth, reciprocity, and sincerity into your life.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the power of constructive solitude and finding peace in the quiet. There is this heavy misconception floating around that having a very small, quiet inner circle means you are inherently lonely. But self-determination theory and modern research on solitude actually prove otherwise. Loneliness is standing in a crowded room surrounded by dozens of acquaintances, yet feeling completely unseen and disconnected from your soul. Constructive solitude, on the other hand, is a voluntary, incredibly empowering choice. It's making a cup of tea, reading a book, and actively restoring your emotional energy without anyone demanding you perform or behave a certain way just for their comfort. This isn't some dark corner you're hiding in. It is a powerful emotional detox and a sacred, protected space you've intentionally built for yourself.
And when you spend enough time in that quiet, an incredible psychological shift happens. It is a genuine awakening. You completely stop bending over backwards trying to understand or excuse toxic behavior. You stop exhausting yourself thinking, oh, maybe they're just tired, or maybe they didn't really mean it. No, you realize people show you exactly who they are by how they consistently show up and how they react when you finally assert your boundaries. You stop giving endless chances to those who take you for granted. And most importantly, you stop trying to fix relationships that were never, ever your responsibility to fix in the first place. I want you to stop and really think about this question for a second. Does having more people in your life actually make you happier? We're taught from childhood that a massive social circle equals success, popularity, and fulfillment. But as you've likely realized through your own lived experience, many of those superficial relationships just force you to constantly sacrifice your peace. They keep you perpetually tense, constantly walking on eggshells just to keep things fine for everyone else. It is well past time to unlearn that exhausting myth. We started this explainer by exploring why pulling back feels like a massive relief, tracing it all the way from compassion fatigue down to those survival blueprints we formed as children. And the realization is profound, isn't it? Life is not measured by the number of people around you, but by how safe you feel when you are with them. If your contact list is smaller today, but the people on it actually respect your boundaries, don't force you to explain your silence, and truly make you feel lighter, you haven't lost anything at all. You've successfully removed the noise to protect your hard-earned peace. So ask yourself,